Hello and welcome to our Scholarship Masterclass. My name is Kerry Ross and I'm the Chief Operations Officer for the Al-Futtaim Education Foundation. We're talking about scholarships, and what we want to do in the masterclasses is help parents and students understand what makes a great scholarship application.
So the first criteria for the Emirati scholarship is obviously we need to establish that the student is Emirati, and what we will do in that circumstance is that we will look at the family book to prove that fact. The general guide, what we're looking at is someone that may have particular sporting abilities, may have particularly artistic talents, could well be in musical terms.
What makes a really good scholarship application? I mean, how many applications do we get annually for AFEF scholarships?
I don't know the exact number, but I know it goes into the hundreds, so there will be a lot of people applying for it.
Having read so many of them, when you get the student's voice coming through clearly and it's the student talking to you, that's far more powerful than the parent talking to you. We want to hear from the students. We want to hear what they're saying they're going to do with the scholarship, how it's going to help them rather than a third party giving us that information.
The watchword here is you need to make sure your application is one of the strongest. It's going to attract the eye.
This podcast will help, but also they'll take you through the documentation required. We definitely respond to everyone to let them know how they've come out of it at the end of the process.
Hello and welcome to our Scholarship Masterclass. My name is Kerry Ross and I'm the Chief Operations Officer for the Al-Futtaim Education Foundation. And I'm joined this morning by two gentlemen I think everybody knows, and I'll let them introduce themselves as well.
Hello, my name's Simon O'Connor. I am the Chief Education Officer for the Al-Futtaim Education Foundation, and I'm also the Director at Dira International School.
Hello, my name is Kevin Loft. I'm the Director of Universal American School.
So gentlemen, we're talking about scholarships, and what we want to do in the masterclasses is help parents and students understand what makes a great scholarship application. But before we get into that, I thought it might be worthwhile just sort of recapping the scholarship history and the types of scholarships that we have available. So Simon, can you walk us through how the AFEF scholarships came about and the types?
Certainly. So the Al-Futtaim Education Foundation has a variety of different scholarships, and it's been running for a number of years now. And the aim of this is to support students in a number of different contexts. So we have three main types of scholarship. The first is to support our Emirati student community. The second is for students in our more senior years, so in post-16, and typically those are in the IB diploma program. And the third type of scholarship is for students who display a particular talent or ability. So that could be artistic, that could be musical, that could be sporting, in a whole range of different ways. Often that is displayed in the way in which they take part in activities outside of school. And all of those have a number of different criteria to them, but those are the three main type of scholarships that are offered.
And Kevin, you have a different curriculum to Simon, to Dira International School, with the AP program as well as the IB diploma program. How does that work at your school?
Yeah, so we have the dual curriculum pathways of the IB diploma program, but also the AP advanced placement program as well. So last year we did award scholarships to advanced placement AP students as well. So it's about academic excellence and academic performance that the scholarship program picks up on.
So Simon, with the Emirati scholarship, could you perhaps explain to us the criteria for the Emirati scholarship?
Okay, certainly. So the first criteria for the Emirati scholarship is obviously we need to establish that the student is Emirati. And what we will do in that circumstance is that we will look at the family book to prove that fact. The second thing we're looking for is an element of academic ability. And therefore, one of the things that unites all of our students is they've taken CAT tests. And so we will look at the CAT scores of those students, and we're looking for a CAT score of 110 across all the subjects that are taken. The third thing, and I think is the most important, and particularly when we're looking at the application, is that the bit we want to hear about the detail is the contribution that this student has made to school. So we'll be looking for a standard of attendance. We'll be looking for an impressive behaviour record, but also that they're working hard in their subjects and making sure that they're contributing to all areas and making the progress that is expected.
And how would you do that? So these scholarships are open to existing students of AFEF schools, but they're also open to prospective students at AFEF schools. So how would you look at some of those elements to ensure a new student coming into the to the school for next academic year meets that criteria?
Well, I think there's two different ways in which we look at this. The first thing is for all students, we will look at their past reports. So we will collect reports from the school that they've been at. And that's a really good way of indicating that certain criteria have been met. But the second thing, and I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit later, is this is where we want the students to go into the detail, explaining this in their application, providing the evidence to support those various elements of the application.
So with the Emirati scholarship, you talked about it. Is it an academic scholarship for the Emirati scholarship?
It's a scholarship for Emirati students to support our Emirati communities, to enable them to thrive at the schools. It has a minimum expectation in terms of academic ability, but no, it's mainly aimed to support the Emirati community.
Yeah. And when we award a Emirati scholarship, what sort of award are we giving to students that qualify and to meet this criteria?
So this is the only one of our scholarships that can actually be up to 100% of fees.
Wow, amazing. Thank you. Let's say we have students that didn't fit under the Emirati scholarship banner, but maybe they're Emirati, but on the talent side of things. What sort of scholarship should they be thinking about?
Okay, so for someone that's not in the very highest years, may not fit the criteria for Emirati scholarship, we offer what we call the talent scholarship. And I think it's fair to say this one is deliberately vague in the sense that we want students to recognise the particular talents and contributions that they have. But as a general guide, what we're looking at is someone that may have particular sporting abilities, may have particularly artistic talents, could well be in musical terms, something which fits beyond the normal academic criteria and routine of the school. So it could be, I'm thinking about students that we've given this scholarship to in the past, great artists, great musicians, people that have engaged in sport in a variety of different ways. Again, this is open for students in grade 4 or year 5 and upwards. And what we're looking for here is an in-depth description of what that talent is. Now, I am going to say one thing which might sound a bit negative, but I need to explain this. This is exceptional talent. So this is an example of someone, for example, who may have played a sport at a national level, has contributed in international competitions, someone who plays the violin age 12 at grade 8. What this is not is for someone that's been in their class football team for a couple of years. We're looking for exceptional talent and we need the evidence of that. I think one of the things is all the students at Universal American School and Deer International School carry with them many talents, and we're delighted to be able to recognise that. But for a scholarship, we are looking for that exceptional talent. So as a guide, someone that has performed at national or international level, simply performing for the school, I'm afraid, would not be enough in this criteria.
So Kevin, if someone was to be awarded a talent-based scholarship at an AFEF school, what would be the value of that scholarship? What's the value of the award that's given?
Yeah, so we look at 50% value for the talent scholarship. So it's different to the Emirati one. So there's different scholarships have different values, and the talent one is 50% of school fee.
Yeah. And so we award these scholarships annually, but is there a way of continuing the scholarship after the award? Are these scholarships renewable?
Absolutely. So the scholarships are valid in each context for the remainder of that child's participation in either of the schools. But what we do on an annual basis is ask all of the students to produce a portfolio to justify the continuance of that scholarship. So on behalf of the school, we will look at reports, we will look at behaviour records, we will look at attendance and things such as that. But we will also ask the students to provide their own justification as to why that continues. So, for example, it may be someone that's giving examples of competitions that they've been successful in beyond the school. It could be concerts that they've performed in outside of the school. It could be particular activities they've taken part in relation to charities or contributions to society. We do very much leave it open for the students to construct that portfolio with the backdrop of the information from the school. But we're asking the essential question is, why should we continue to give that scholarship? It is worth saying that we go into those discussions with an assumption that it will be, but we're asking the students to provide that evidence.
Thank you. Simon, you talked about the IBDP scholarship as the third scholarship that is available. Can you talk us through the criteria for the IBDP scholarship?
Certainly. So this is the final category of scholarship that we offer, and it's for our most senior students. So students in either grades 11 and 12 or in years 12 and 13. Therefore, this is a 2-year scholarship, and it is really based on academic performance. So, for example, in Dear International School, students will have been taking their GCSE examinations, and we're looking for the very highest performers in that. In Universal American School, obviously, the completion of grade 10, we will look at their reports, and again, it's the very highest performers of that. We also look at their CAT scores to establish if they are in the very highest bands in relation to that. So we're normally looking for a CAT score of approximately 125. But we are also looking, as we do with all of those, for a track record of strong attendance, excellent behaviour, and also some contribution to the school.
Okay, thank you. So parents are keen to apply for a scholarship. They understand the different areas they've decided. And I think that's an important thing, isn't it? That they have to decide what is the scholarship that is most applicable for their child, or the student needs to decide that and make an application. So Kevin, can you tell us how does an AFEF student apply for an application, and what's the sort of time frame on that?
Yeah, so obviously we've got staff at school come and speak to us, talk to us. There's staff that will take you through the process. Obviously, this podcast will help, but also they'll take you through the documentation required. We need that documentation by the end of May. And then the selection committee will meet during June, and we aim to come back at the end of June and let recipients know of the scholarship or the outcome of those decisions that have been made.
So Simon, how much is the IBDP scholarship worth to a student? So what's the value of that scholarship across those 2 years that you talked about? Okay,
so like the talent scholarship, these scholarships are worth anything up to 50% of school fees.
Okay, thank you very much. So in essence, it's a year of free school over that 2-year period.
Absolutely.
Of the IBDP
time. Yeah.
Okay, so parents and students have reviewed the scholarship criteria, and they have decided which type of scholarship they think that they should apply for. And I guess that's important, Simon.
Absolutely.
Can I put an application for more than one type of scholarship?
No, and I think that's why it's important to look at that criteria carefully. Yeah. It's so we will only accept one application per student, and therefore, obviously, the way to select that is the one where you think the evidence is strongest.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. And Kevin, can you tell me, how do we do that application? How does the parent or the student make the application?
Yeah, sure. So there's 2 ways really. The schools have front of house teams, so we're always there to talk to parents and take you through the process. But there is also a website portal where that application is made, and information is there about the scholarships as well. So you can go to that portal and information's available to you there. We ask for applications to come in by the end of May. The selections committee meet during the month of May, and at the end of during the month of June. And at the end of June, we come back and let people know the outcomes of that selection committee.
And what if I've got questions? You know, I'm a student. I think I should apply for an IBDP scholarship, and I'm a little unsure. Or maybe I'm a parent, and I what do I do? Who do I go and talk to?
Come and speak to our front of house. They'll make sure you get to the right person. There's leadership teams. There's the front of house team. All of those people have knowledge on this area. All of those people will be able to take you through the process and point you in that right direction, and make sure you're going down that right path for your student and your needs that we need to address.
Okay, perfect. So let's get to the crux of what we actually came to. Yes, okay. What we came to talk about today, which is what makes a really good scholarship application. I mean, how many applications do we get annually for AFEF scholarships?
I don't know the exact number, but I know it goes into the hundreds. So there will be a lot of people applying for it. And I suppose the watchword here is you need to make sure your application is one of the strongest. It's going to attract the eye. So I suppose the first thing is to take you through the process that we go through. The first thing is that all of the applications are printed out and that they are then reviewed by do they fit the criteria. So, for example, if we have someone applying for an Emirati scholarship who is French, they're not going to proceed down that process. So it's literally a tick box, yes or no. And we will then review the ones that are left for strength. So you asked the question, what makes a good application? I think it's important to remember that these scholarships can be worth potentially hundreds of thousands of dirhams, and therefore it is worth investing time in this to ensure that that application is as comprehensive as it can be. So firstly, take your time and make sure that the evidence is strong. Secondly, Can you demonstrate with clear evidence the criteria that we've been looking at? So if you're looking at a talent scholarship, tell us about that talent, but tell us where you've used it, how you've used it, give us clear examples.
And so just on evidence, so let's say I'm performing, I'm a platform diver. I have been diving at international competitions.
Yep.
How do I demonstrate that to you? Am I submitting video content?
Yep.
What am I submitting?
Yeah, I mean, I think we try not to be prescriptive about this, and we leave it up to the student to submit. So yes, we have seen videos, I've seen certificates, I've seen media reports, evidence of that success that is being celebrated elsewhere, because obviously we weren't there, we haven't seen it. It could be judges panel comments. It could be again programs from concerts. It could be a whole variety of things. But I think the important thing is to provide that evidence that backs up what you're saying, that supports the application.
And then how do you validate some of that evidence? So let's say I'm a young swimmer. I'm telling you that my times are recorded and they look like this. Is there a validation process that sits behind that?
Yeah, we will go back and check that to ensure that they are accurate as well. Yeah. The third thing I was going to say is think about how you can contribute to the school moving forward. Al-Futtaim Education Foundation potentially is about to invest some money in it. It's nice to hear students saying that they will take that talent or they will take their success, irrespective of what application they're making, the success they've had so far, to actually contribute and give back to the school. That's a really nice way in which I think people can support that application. The other thing I would say is that it's really important to get it checked through. If you're thinking about an application letter for a job or maybe university, you would give it to someone else to check it through, make sure there's no spelling mistakes, make sure that it makes sense, make sure that it's clear. And I would strongly advise anyone that's doing this to take that step as well. The other thing I do need to point out is that every year we get people applying for scholarships for financial assistance. That's not part of the criteria, and I'm afraid those applications are not considered simply because this is a scholarship program that's looking at the talent of our students. It's not the route for that particular request.
So that's interesting. So what do parents do if they have a request for some sort of financial support for keeping their children at the school, and scholarships is not the pathway for that?
That's a different conversation. And again, I would echo what Kevin said about talking to the school. Applications can be made for this, but just to be clear, it's not a criteria for a scholarship.
Perfect. So what about who writes this scholarship application? Is that important?
I think it is. I think having read so many of them, when you get the student's voice coming through clearly and it's the student talking to you, that's far more powerful than the parent talking to you. We want to hear from the students. We want to hear what they're saying they're going to do with the scholarship, how it's going to help them, rather than a third party giving us that information.
It is also very clear when it's not written by the student. We won't consider applications that are explicitly written by somebody else. But it's also important to say sometimes, and we'll talk about the scholarship committee in a moment or two, but sometimes we do ask to talk to the students. And if they're not aware of what is in that application, that can become quite uncomfortable.
What about AI? We're seeing AI come into how students approach applications or written work, etc. How would we view that in an application process?
AI is a powerful tool and it's a useful tool. So, like we do at school, it's about the integrity of where you get your sources from and how you use them. So, it can be used, but it needs to still have your voice and be written by you. So put those two things together, I think, and that will help you.
And for existing students, do we take into consideration the attendance and behaviour elements of it? So I'm getting a picture now of this application that's been put through the portal. We've got an application. We've got lots of evidence to support it. Is there also then you said that the school looks at it from a criteria match? Is this a Emirati family applying for an Emirati? Is this someone in IBDP applying for IBDP? Did the school look at anything else as part of that review process? Yeah,
we will look at past reports. Now, obviously, a current student will have lots more information on them we might have for an external student. And for example, if someone has a low attendance record, we will investigate that further. That doesn't mean it won't be accepted. If there is legitimate reasons for that low attendance, then obviously that's absolutely absolutely fine. But if someone simply has taken the view that they're not coming to school very often, that's not the type of student for whom it's appropriate to award a scholarship. Similarly, if there are a lot of behaviour issues, again, there's an investigation as to find out why. So we will always look at that context because they are our students and we can do that. But both attendance and behaviour are considered not only in the initial application, but also whether the scholarship is continued after that.
So getting a picture also of process. So in May, there's a cut-off. I believe that's at the end of May for applications. They get printed, Simon, and reviewed for criteria. That's all done at the school, by the school. So then a scholarship committee comes together and there's a scholarship review of the scholarship application. Demystify the scholarship committee for us. What happens inside that meeting?
Okay, so the scholarship committee consists of the three of us, but also other members of the Al-Futtaim Education Foundation board. And essentially what we will do is for each school go through each of those three criteria. We will present, so I will present the scholarship applications that have met the criteria. And essentially what we then do is discuss who is the most worthy, which application has provided the evidence that is the strongest. There's no particular limit on how many applications that we provide, but what we try and do is ensure that students that have demonstrated this exceptional performance over time can be rewarded by the foundation.
Thank you. So there's no limit, Simon, on the number of applications that can come in for a school. But Kevin, is there a limit on the number of scholarships that are awarded in any academic year?
Yeah, there is a limit. So there's as I say, we put a lot forward, but we do limit the amount of scholarships that we actually reward at the end. And
it's worth saying sometimes we may break a scholarship up. So rather than give someone 50%, we might give two people 25% in order to increase the number of students that are able to participate in the programme.
So after the scholarships are awarded, Kevin, you mentioned by the end of June that we would communicate back to those that have applied. Talk me through how does that work? Does everybody get some sort of feedback at the end of the scholarship process?
We definitely respond to everyone to let them know how they've come out of at the end of the process. Obviously, those that have got the scholarship, there's a bit more communication and work to be done with those families and those students. But we do let every student know what the outcome of that scholarship review was for them.
Unfortunately, we aren't able to offer individual feedback to candidates, and that's simply a time reality. We've also already discussed that we have hundreds of applications, so unsuccessful candidates will be informed that they were unsuccessful, but we don't go into the detail of why not.
Where that's a student that's had a scholarship previously, there's a bit more detail into why those changes have come. And again, sometimes we've reduced the scholarship down in those situations as well.
Yeah. So just before we finish up, I just to come back to the renewal process, Kevin, just to summarise that for us again. So we've talked about the scholarships, we've talked about the best way to get them in if you've been successful, that some of them are renewable. The Emirati and the talent-based scholarships are renewable. So just talk us through, Simon mentioned a portfolio. Can you just talk us through how that works?
Yeah, so it's obviously when we're giving those scholarships out, we're looking at a holistic view as well. And it's the same thing when we're renewing them. You know, holistically, how have you done with that scholarship? What's been the outcome? What's been the advantages for you? How have you been able to integrate that into the community and the life of the school? It's all of those elements that need to come through that portfolio and that evidence. But also, if it's a talent-based scholarship, how have you done internationally, nationally? What awards have you done? What performances have you done? All of those elements that have been enhanced by the scholarship, we want to see the evidence of that impact, basically.
So are you expecting is it a large portfolio? Is it a summary?
Again, it's down to the student based on what their scholarship is for, but we want to see the evidence that that's actually having an impact and that you're getting an advantage from having it. It's not, as we said, it's not purely a financial scholarship. It's actually about giving the opportunity for you to have an impact in your specialist area, be that academic, be that a talent-based scholarship. We want to see that's actually having an impact on you, and hopefully that you're having an impact on the school in the same process.
So Kevin, Simon, thank you very much for the information today on scholarships. I hope that has answered your questions, particularly the question around how do I put together and package up a great scholarship application, and also some of the general questions that we get about scholarships. If you've got any further questions, please contact, let's start with the front of house at the schools, and they'll be able to help you, and as Kevin has said, direct you to the right person. Thank you.